friends. My name is Antoinette Chanel and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I would like to do a recap of episodes 3 and 4 of With Love, Meghan, the Netflix show that premiered on Netflix in March of 2025, starring Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, Mountbatten Windsor, Montecito. As usual, if you don't want to hear any spoilers about the show, then you probably want to avoid my recaps of the episodes. But let's just jump in. Okay, so episode 3 is titled Two Kids from LA, and it has the guest star Roy Choi, who is an LA street chef. This episode starts with Meghan saying, "Let's try and make donuts." So she's trying a new thing for us on camera. Meghan talks about learning a lot, but I never really learned much from watching her on this show, even though she's demonstrating a lot of things in front of the camera. She also makes the comment in preparing for Roy Choi that we need to impress this man, even though she stated in the prior 2 episodes that it wasn't about perfection. She also puts out more flowers. I think flowers are just a signature thing for Meghan. When Roy Choi arrives, Meghan says something, or maybe he's the one who says it. Somebody says it, that we're not friends, but we will be. Meghan also makes another comment that I made that for you guys, or I made these for you guys. I think she's referring to the donuts in this shot. I took these notes a little while ago when I watched the show. I haven't watched the show since. Someone also asks, how did she make the matcha? There's just so many scripted points in this show where you can tell that someone was told to say or ask something in order to make Meghan look like she's just so crafty and so with it and so amazing. And oh, look, she still looks perfect while doing it too. I noticed a lot of LA associations in this episode specifically, which stood out to me in some of the other recap videos that I've done just on Meghan Markle's public relations dealings in general. I've talked about how after those wildfires in the Pacific Palisades area, it seemed like Meghan was really trying to play up her LA roots, if you want to call them that, by wearing the LA Dodgers hat and so forth. And she does more of that intentional sort of placement, mentioning, showing images of stuff in this show. There's a few more points of that I'll talk about as I recap the other episodes, but the LA stuff was really coming through strong in this episode, and I wonder if they played that up because Meghan was trying to smooth over her relationship with the LA crowd after what happened with the wildfires and her and Harry showing up to those burn sites when they really didn't need to be there. It just doesn't play as authentic. Meghan also shows off a bit as know-it-all in this episode, in my opinion. So she says that she doesn't like beer, but she ends up drinking a beer with Roy Choi. And she asks, is that the lactic acid? There was also a segment of dialogue where Meghan talks about how she likes to clean hotel rooms, which I did not find believable in the slightest, but you know, this isn't about reality or even trying to appear realistic. It's just about fulfilling the vision that Meghan had in her head. Meghan also states that she's not messy. I'm not messy, and I like to leave hotel rooms better than I found them when I got there. I mean, all I really wondered about was if she was cleaning up the broken teacups after she threw tea in assistants' faces and, you know, brought them tissues or sent them flowers. This was the episode where I felt like her garden really looked like a nursery. So it looked like the kind of place that I go to purchase my exotic plants or plant supplies. It didn't look like a residential garden. We also get a reference to the dip in this episode, and I just thought it was really out of place. But yet another simple callback that Meghan can make to her mixed race heritage that she is always reminding us of. Not through the way that she lives or the way that she carries herself or the way that she has, you know, composed her life, but because she's always piping in some sort of Motown or soulful music into the things that she's doing and making little subtle references here and there to various cultural significant icons that Black people would recognize. But I don't buy it, and I never have. None of the conversations that she has with Roy Choi were very substantive. It was all just kind of a vibe and filler role for this show. She needed an episode and Roy came in handy for that. But the conversation that they're having didn't really perk my ears up in any way. I wasn't intrigued. It wasn't offensive or anything like that. It was just dull and boring, much like this show. The connection between Meghan and Chef Roy Choi seems very scripted and forced, like most of the interactions that we see in With Love. Now, they do have a segment where Chef Roy Choi talks about the history of MSG and how MSG was used sort of as a racist way to sort of code restaurants and eateries to say, oh, it's probably majority Asian owned and run, and so it might be a place that Americans would want to avoid. I don't doubt the validity of that at all, and I think that within the work that Roy Choi does, mentioning something like this seems like a really natural thing to talk about, but because this is happening on Meghan Markle's show, I just kind of rolled my eyes at, once again, another mention of racism. And what also kind of bugs me is that whenever anyone is talking about racism, Meghan always looks so doe-eyed and naive and, you know, so innocent on the matter. When she's an adult, she's a grown-ass woman, and I mean, this whole continuing to act like you are above it, you don't see it, you're not involved in it, and I'm so devastated to hear these stories. I'm so shocked to hear this stuff. Like, I feel like that is a really terrible way to proceed right now. It's no secret that there are several social groups who are suffering in the United States. Basically, most non-white groups are facing some form of oppression under the new administration that we have in office right now. And so to act so oblivious about racism and how blatant that stuff can be, to me is a slap in the face. But, you know, this is part of Meghan's brand. She likes to dabble in race and racism type topics as much as it benefits her, as much as she can look like a victim and it can benefit her and get people on her side. But actually doing the real educating, the real work of learning about these things, no. I also made a note here that the Netflix crew seemed like hostages through this episode. Episode 4 is titled Love is in the Details. So this episode opens with Meghan making sun tea yet again, and she tells us a story about how she used to make this when she was a child. And for those who don't know, sun tea is it's a tea ball basically of fresh herbs, all the stuff that you would put into a tea bag. You put all of that stuff together and then you put it into a clear pitcher of water and you put it out in the sun. So all of this stuff basically steeps with the sunlight. And it's a process that takes time, as you can imagine. And I don't believe that little kid Meghan had the patience or the interest in making sun tea, but she tells the story that she used to do this all the time when she was a kid. Episode 4 is also the Guy episode. So we start getting references to Guy. We hear Guy snoring in this episode. In this episode, we see Meghan make raspberry preserves, and the method that I saw her using for making her preserves looked very similar to the method that I use when I make my homemade cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving time. I should have mentioned it when I started this segment, but the guest for episode 4 is Delfina Figueroas, who is Nacho Figueroas' wife. Meghan decides to make focaccia with Delfina. Both women are wearing jewelry, like rings, on their fingers as they are doing this. And I don't like to cook when I have my rings on. I usually take them off for cooking. If this was a commercial kitchen, they would be required to take their jewelry off because of sanitation reasons. So that part looked a little odd to me, but overall, Delfina seems to be playing along. She seems to be a willing guest and participant in all of this. And as she talks about her background a little bit, I was really interested in learning more. She had a story that seemed compelling. Her background seemed compelling. I would have liked to have just heard Delfina speak uninterrupted for a good 10 minutes about her upbringing, about what motivates her, about what her life looks like these days. I would have loved to have heard those details from her, but instead we get some of those details with Meghan's commentary peppered in throughout them, so it just ends up being drivel. I made a note here that Delfina's story juxtaposed with Meghan's superficiality just doesn't do it justice. The women decide to go out on a hike, which I found to be somewhat relatable. Usually when me and my friends get together in Southern California, we like to go out and hike too. But then there was this weird dancing that they were doing. And it was sparked by Meghan. Meghan said, yeah, so we'll just dance out on a trail while hiking. I'm like, where's the music? What are you dancing to? When they get back to Meghan's home, Meghan surprises Delfina with lavender towels that she prepared earlier and put into the fridge. It seemed like Delfina stayed for a couple of days, but the set that most of With Love takes place on is not at Meghan's actual home. So again, the messaging came through really weird. I was just confused and had so many questions about, like, where did you sleep? How did you sleep? What did you do to come over to this set right now? So just now when you walked in and said, hi, I'm here, that was fake, right? You guys arrived here together. Why are you on what seems like it must have been the second day, Meghan says to Delphi, I have some treats for you, or I have treats that I made for you. She says, I have treats for you to take home. But it was really forced, and basically she had these dog biscuits because Delfina also has a dog, and so Meghan made dog biscuits for the dog, which is great. I think that's awesome if you know how to make your own dog biscuits, but it just seemed really, really forced, and just another plot point at which Meghan can then market her items that she is selling with her brand. What was really odd about this episode is that the women end by having a charcuterie in presumably Meghan's rented fake backyard, and they lay a blanket on the ground and they sit and they have their charcuterie together. Again, the conversation is not at all substantive. It's very one-linery. Like, Meghan loves to pull out all of the cliche self-help girl power types of lines when she's having conversations with the people that she says are her friends. Like, why is it so hard for you to make genuine conversation with these people? And so they're having this charcuterie in the yard, and the dogs are walking around in the yard, and like no one's doing any like swatting away or worrying about the dogs coming for the charcuterie treats, which I would have had to do if those were my dogs, that's for sure. I mean, even with training, you pull out a bunch of cured meats and cheeses in front of a dog and they're gonna get excited. And then to end the episode, we hear some Spanish type music with like a Spanish guitar playing as the episode ends, which I assume is a reference to Delfina's background and her upbringing and her heritage. But it just goes to show how the music choices on any show are always going to be intentional, but specifically, I think that Meghan was trying to walk us into certain types of conclusions with the music that she chose for With Love. And with this selection, I think she was trying to give the impression that her and Delfina have a much tighter and closer connection than what is actually there in real life. Okay, friends, that's all I've got for this episode recap, but you let me know, what were your thoughts on episodes 3 and 4 of With Love if you're watching. If you're not watching, don't worry, I did the watching for you. It was pretty hard, I will say. Like, it's a boring show for me. I don't like watching it. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really helps me in the algorithm. Also, be sure to leave me some comments down below. I finally found your comments. Thank you so much for those. If you'd like to keep up with me on Instagram, you can do so at the handle that's on your screen right now. And if you would like to see more videos from me, consider hitting the subscribe button so that you can be notified every time I upload new videos. Thank you so much for being here, friends. I really appreciate you. Take care, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Bye.